Hello and welcome to another video. This is Cracking the Cryptic app Fog of 4 pack puzzle number 18. Round the grid. The rules are Fog of War. Correctly placed digits clear the fog around them. Classic. Every row, column, and box must have all numbers from 1 to 9 exactly once. Killer. The cells in each cage must sum up to the number in the top left corner of the cage, and numbers cannot be repeated inside the cage. Partial Domino. A white dot between two cells indicates that the neighboring digits are consecutive. A black dot between two cells indicates that one of the digits is twice as big as the other digit. An X between two cells indicates that the cells sum to 10. A V between two cells indicates that the cells sum to 5. Not all possible dots, X's, and V's are given. Fog XV note. For clarity, X's have a blue background and V's have a red background. Let us begin. We are given two black Cryptic pairs, and we know that these cells cannot contain a 5, a 7, or a 9, because nothing doubles into these values, and a double of their value is over 9. So this can only be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and an 8. These two cells, as we can see, sum up to a 5, so they can either be 1 and 4 pair, or 2 or 3 pair. And these two cells sum up to a 10, so they're either 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7, or a 4 and 6. Now, let's assume that in this top leftmost Cryptic pair, you have the number 1 showing up either here or here, it does not matter. Well, if a 1 is here, then the other digit would have to be a 2. And so 1 and 2 would not be available down here. But that would leave you with a 3, 4, which sum up to a 7. And that would not sum up to 5, leaving us in a contradiction. Therefore, a 1 cannot show up in the top leftmost black Cryptic pair. What about the number 2? Well, if a 2 was there, the other number would be a 4, because a 1 is no longer available. So you would have 2 and 4 there, meaning that nowhere else can you have a 2 and 4. And that makes this a 1 and 3 pair, which sums to 4 and not to 5, which is another contradiction. So the number 2 cannot show up here. What about the number 3? Well, if a 3 was there, either here or here, the other number would have to be a 6. And so 3 and 6 would not show up anywhere else. Now, without the number 3, a 2 cannot be here or here, because without the 3, it cannot make the 5. So that makes a 1-4 pair, meaning that nowhere else can you have a 1 or a 4. And now, number 9 cannot be here, because without the 1 you can't make a 10. And number 7 cannot be here either, because, again, without the 3, which isn't here, you cannot make the 10. So that's a 2-8 pair. And that means that this is not 2 or 8, so this is an empty cell. Therefore, the assumption that the number 3 shows up in the top leftmost corner leads to a contradiction. So 3 isn't here, and therefore the 6 isn't there. So that leaves us with a 4-8 pair in that corner. And now let's fill in every other square with every possible value it can have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 4 and 8 is up there, meaning that you cannot have 4 or 8 in the same box or row. And since a 4 is not here anymore, you cannot have a 1 there because it couldn't sum up to the 5. So that's a 2-3 pair, meaning that you cannot have 2 or 3 anywhere in the same box or row. And now, since this must sum up to a 10, it cannot be a 7 or a 6 there because the 4 and the 3 are not there. So it cannot be a 7 or a 6. So then that is a 1-9. And that cleans 1 and 9 from the same box or column, because that's a pair. That leaves us with our first digit, which is a 6. This is a black Cryptic pair, so this must be the 3. That reveals a 2 up here with the 3 next to it. Okay, so now we see some new information. These two cells sum up to a 10. And this cannot possibly be the number 5, because if it was a 5, it would need this to be a 5 as well to sum up to a 10. But you cannot have the same digit show up in the same row twice. So this must be a 7, and then this is the number 3. And so this is the number 5. Now we see two new things. A cage that sums up to 13 was just revealed, and by looking at its borders, we see that it is at least 4 cells long. We're going to color it as pink. Now, this cage, because there's no barriers here or here, is at least 4 cages long, and it cannot possibly be 5 cells long. Why? Because in Killer Sudoku, digits cannot repeat inside the cage. So the lowest possible value of a 5 cell long cage is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which sums up to 15. So if it had a 5th cell here or anywhere else, then it would sum up to at least 15, and it sums up to 13. So since it is at least 4 cells long and it cannot be 5 cells long, we know that it is exactly 4 cells long, and therefore we're gonna check its possible values. All right, so now we see that an 8 or a 9 cannot show up in one of these squares. So an 8 and 9 cannot show up there. And since these two cells sum up to 10, we can individually go through values and see which values work and which don't. For example, this cannot be a 7 because there's no 3 up here. And vice versa. So this cannot be a 1 because there's no 9 down here. Cannot be a 2 because there's no 8. Neither of them can contain a 5. This can be a 6 because there's a 4 here. This cannot be a 7, however, because there is no 3 down here. And this can be a 9, but this cannot be a 6 because there's no 4 up there. So that gives us a 1, 2, 4 triple, meaning that 1, 2, and 4 cannot be anywhere else in the box. And furthermore, because, oops. I'm pretty sure that I cleaned the 6, right? I said that I'm cleaning the 6, and then I somehow didn't click on a 6 here. So a 6 cannot be there because there is no 4 up there, right? So then we have a 1, 2, 4 triple over here, meaning that 1, 2, and 4 cannot be anywhere there. I don't know what happened. I think instead of clicking a 1, I must have clicked on the undo button, which takes me back one step, and that kind of threw me off. So anyway, because 1, 2, and 4 sum up to a 7, and this whole thing sums up to 13, then this must be a 6. And so this is a 9, and so this is a 1. Since this is a 5-7 pair, you cannot have 5 or 7 up here. This is a 1, this is a 9, and this must be the 8 because of the pair up here. Now, this reveals a 14 cage, which is, again, we don't see any barriers here, so it is at least 4 cells long. And it is also at most 4 cells long, because if it was 5 cells long, then it would sum up to at least 15. Therefore, let's check the 14. And we can see that since we don't have the number 1 showing up anywhere, then it must be this case where it is 2, 3, 4, 5. So it does not contain a 6 or a 7. So it is 2, 3, 4, and 5. So those values don't show up anywhere else in that box. So that's a 6, this is a 7. And that reveals 2 black Kropki pairs which cannot contain a 5, a 7, or a 9. So since this is 1, 8, you could have a 2 to pair with the 1 or a 4 to pair with the 8. So that's a 2, 4, 2, 4. And since that is a pair, you cannot have a 2 or a 4 anywhere else in that row or box. That leaves this to be the 9 because we have a 1, 8 pair. And now this reveals that these two numbers sum up to 5. So this can either be a 3 or a 1. However, can this be possibly a 3? If this was a 3, then this would be 2 to make the 5, right? but then both 2 and 3 would be taken, meaning that this square would be empty, because it can only take the values 2 and 3. So if this is a 3 and this is a 2, then this is empty. Therefore, this is not a 3, so it's a 1, 4. This is 8, 5, 1, and 4. And so this is a 2. Now, this reveals a cage that sums up to 16. It is at least 4 cells long, right? Let's use another color, orange. So it is at least 4 cells long. That would work. No barriers down here, right? So we see that it does go down. But it could be 5 cells long, right? Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sums up to 15. And so if you check over here, number 16, with the 4 digits, you can get that sum. With the 5 digits, oops, you can also get that sum, right? Obviously, it does not work with the 6 digits. So it is either 4 or 5 cells long. Let's assume first that it is 5 cells long. Immediately, we see that then it must contain the number 1 somewhere. But the number 1 doesn't show up in any of these. And if the cage looked like this, that wouldn't work, because again, it would not have number 1, same issue here. We see that it doesn't extend in any of these directions, so it could only possibly go here, which does indeed have the number 1. So this would be the 1. This has to be the 2, because it's the only other square that can take the number 2. This would have to be the 4, because it's the only other square that can take the 4, and then this would be the 3, and then this would be the 6. So 1, 2, 4, 3, 6. Crucially, this would be the number 2. Let's check the 4. So now let's assume that it is exactly 4 cells long. Well, we can get rid of all the cases where it contains a 1, because there is no 1 anywhere here. And we are left with the assumption that it does have the number 2 in it. And the only square for the 2 is still this square. So let's recap. It is exactly either 4 cells long or it is 5 cells long. If it is 5 cells long, it looks like this. It has a 1 here and it must have a 2 over here. If it is 4 cells long, then it again must have a 2 over here. So by elimination of disjunction, it must have a 2 over here no matter if it is 4 or 5 cells long. And therefore the number 2 is right here. And now that reveals that it is indeed just 4 cells long, and therefore it cannot contain a value higher than 7. So no 8 or 9 over here. Furthermore, you can see that this is a black Kropke pair, so it cannot contain a 5, a 7, or a 9. And up here, it revealed the 3. So then this is a 6, and so this is a 3. So since this is the 7, then that means that we are in this case with the 2, 3, 4, 7. So since this is the only place for the 4, that's the 4, and then this is the 3. And lastly, this is the 9. So since this is a black Kropke pair, it cannot contain a 5, 7, or a 9. And since this is a 5-8 pair, this cannot be a 5 or an 8. Same thing up here, this cannot be a 5 or 8, so this is a 9. And so this is a 1, and then this must be the 2, and this is therefore the 7. Now, we see that this is a 4, this is a 2, and then this is the 2. This is a pretty big cage, right? It sums up to 39. But we see that kind of goes like this. This must be a part of the cage. And same is true for this. So the cage is at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells long, but it could be longer. We don't know. It could go onwards like that, right? But these cells that I just selected cannot contain a 7 because it already has the 7. And therefore, the only place for the 7 is right here. So now we see that it is indeed exactly 6 cells long. So therefore, we can put this as a 6, and then we put 39 over here, and we see that this cannot contain 1, 2, or 3. So no 1, no 2, and no 3. Therefore, this cannot contain a 6, an 8, 9, or a 5. So this is the 1, and then this is a 3. So since that's a 3, then this is a 3, and this is a 3. And then since they sum up to 5, this is a 2, and then this must be the 8. That is a 5, then that is the 8, so the 8 must be up here, meaning this is 4, and then this is 9. That is a 1. And since that's a 5, 6, 9 triple, cannot have a 5 or a 6 down here. And this must be the 1. It's the only place for the 1 in this box. This is a 4. That's an 8, 5, 7. So this is a 7, 4. This is therefore the 5. Now that's a 6, 5. That's a 5, 9, 6. The puzzle looks more or less complete. It looks like it's going to unravel by itself. This is a 9. The 9 is here. That's a 7. That's a 2. So this is a 2. They sum up to 10. So this is an 8, 4, 6, 7, 8, 6, 8, 5, 6. And then that is a 5. And that's a 4. Wow, that was a quick one. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one.